we should talk about Paul Bunyan's trophy, but that might be a topic for Thursday's show. But boys, how's the weekend? How we feeling? We should start with Chad, just so that it's not like an up and down kind of thing here.
Well, as I talked about in Hot Takes Pancakes, we lost our game. That was a rough one. But yeah, I won't go down that road. But then Tampa Bay decided to not show up, and Tom Brady's making it very clear that his marriage was really over because he came back for this bullshit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, obviously, someone's going back on a home before the season started. That's the way I'm looking at it. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way his life was that good at home that you would come back to be this miserable.
Yeah, unless it's like his kids are bratty or something. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean they lost. Kalen, you guys got the win.
Yep. And it's
You've
obviously
been
against the Colts. We'll talk about that, I guess, in a little bit. But it's always nice to get a Colts win. And all in all, I mean, AFC South didn't take too many wins this weekend, so we're up there.
right, and your Celtics have got off to an okay start, and the analytics for the Devils look good, so things might be promising as they work out towards the end. Um, Different things we're going to touch on. Is it time to point fingers in Tampa Bay and Green Bay? Uh, the Both the NFC and the AFC appear to be loaded. Some outlook on some of the injuries that are going on and the teams that have been letting us down, the most disappointing teams through 7 weeks. But before we jump in, always make sure that we're checking out our friends over at Coolback Canada. That's how you get your game day bets in. We do have a bet for you to get started. We will drop that after the first 10 minutes. But topic for the NFL right now is it time to start pointing fingers in Tampa Bay? Um, if so, is it Todd Bowles? Is it Tom Brady? Is it Byron Leftwich? Is it another coach? Is it a combination of all of them? What needs to happen? What needs to happen fast? And on coming off of a short week to play Thursday night against Baltimore, yes, it's a home game, but what is the expectation? So, Chad, you are the Bucs fan. Maybe tell us how Bucs Nation is feeling at the moment.
Todd Bowles needs to get fired. It's that simple. Um, he wasn't a winning coach with the Jets, which I don't think a lot of people were. Some guys are meant to be coordinators.
Yeah.
He's one of them. I don't think he knows how to rally his team around him, and it's very clear. And it shows that how good of a coach Bruce Arians really was. I think he won everywhere in shitty situations.
Yep.
I'm not saying Byron was the right guy for the job either. I'm not going to come out and say that right now because he's never been a head coach before. But you gave a championship team that literally lost nobody at all. And the defense only got better, which you're a defensive coordinator. That's what you were. The defense isn't playing as good as it was last year. The team as a whole is playing significantly worse than it was last year. Yes, everybody's pointing the fingers at Tom Brady, but I also watched Mike Evans drop a wide open ball yesterday that could have changed that whole game from the get-go.
Yeah, because that's a death blow. I mean, that's only 7-0, but like, yeah, I mean that is a kill shot in the first, the first whatever 2-3 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it's on the first drive. That ends it right there. There's a massive issue of focus going on. I don't know what's, but that comes to me. That's the head coach. That's nobody else. When you have a team that good and you're going to watch that happen, then yeah, you got to change that. And unfortunately, I think Todd Bowles, he has to go. And I'll see Tom Brady. He's on the back end. Like I wouldn't say the back nine of his career. Like he's playing the 18th hole. Like we all know this.
Well, he's in overtime.
He might be on the 19th or 20th right now.
Yeah, like I think he's in playoff time right now. You know what I mean? Like the extra holes.
He visited the clubhouse and went back out to the course for a quick bet.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so like to sit here and say it's all on him. You have a 45-year-old quarterback. What did you expect? But yeah, the zip on the ball isn't there. We talked about that last week, Shane. He looks like he's playing scared with pressure coming right up in his face. He's not getting. He gets the ball out super quick to help his offensive line, and he's still getting it out quick, but the guys are still in his face. If you can't even give your quarterback 1.5 seconds, how the fuck's he supposed to make a read? And he's dirting throws because he is standing. He's not mobile. He's less mobile than he was before.
Right.
And yeah, we lost our interior offensive line. I think that's a big issue. That and coaching, like that's what the issue is. And there's no leadership there.
Well, I think like the biggest, like on the outside looking in, the biggest thing that subtracted from the team was Bruce Arians. I mean, that's what it really comes down to, right? Everything else has been there and has been steadfast. Losing, your Ryan Jensen guy, your center is going to be huge. He was a huge catalyst to that offensive line. Defensively, like they're eighth in the team or eighth in the league, sorry, in points against. It's not like they're getting trampled on. Like their team can only do so much, but their defense is on the field like 70% of the freaking game. You guys can't string together a drive to save their life right now. They get the same amount of points against them as they do for them, which is 124. And just put that in perspective, I think they're like at the 20th or something like that in league in points. So that's not very good for a Tom Brady led offense when they've got, Julio Jones is done. I think I told you that coming into this season, right? This is a mishap. He's just collecting a paycheck at this point. But Godwin has played better than I thought he was going to. I didn't think we should expect a lot from him coming off an ACL injury. Even Mike Evans has been on the field. I mean, they lost Gronk. Was that it? You know what I mean? Like, what is that the biggest loss to you? I mean, and John Jones, who's not with you guys, but he never was really started from the get go, right?
Right, and no tight end definitely hurts. I mean, they're relying on Cade Otton to be the tight end right now with Bray hurt. It looks like, like Chad kind of touched on it. It makes sense. He can't step into his throws because he doesn't trust what's happening in front of him. Doesn't want to get hurt. He knows that he's a serious injury away from never playing football again. Nobody, and I mean, he didn't have the career that Joe Theismann has, but nobody wants to get Theismann, and I don't blame him. He doesn't trust the guys in front of him. I would expect more of the same this week. It's kind of sad to say that because of the state of the division, they're still in first at 3-4, and even if they're to drop this week against the Ravens, I don't have any confidence that the Saints, the Falcons, or the Panthers are going to do anything. So this could be one of those things where the Bucs end up finishing 8-9 and they still win the division by a game or two.
And in playoffs, you can't count on Brady no matter what, right? But is this finally the playoffs that he gets there? We all go, nothing's going to happen here.
Yeah,
I'm never making that bet. Like if a Tom Brady's in the playoffs and a one game, like this isn't a series. He only has to play one game at a time, and that's a tough guy to bet against.
Right, and you don't want to bet against him. And I made the mistake of not betting against him and actually betting for him. Not only at the beginning of the game, I bought it down to be only 10 points, and I thought, you know what, 10 points is the 13 or 14 they were laying was a lot. 10 points, I think they'll win by 2 scores. And then they fell down 14-0. I was like, well, now I'm just going to take them straight up money line. And then they fell down 21 points, I think. And I was like, oh, well, this is happening. I'm going to go back to the well one more time. So ultimately, they cost me a little bit of money. So they're not in my good books. I'm not too happy with them. I don't think that there's a fix on the horizon, but I don't think that they need a fix to be a first place team in that division. Unfortunately, unless it for some reason Atlanta can actually string it together. But I'm not Mariota is doing what he's doing, but I don't think he can sustain that all year. It's kind of been that in the past. The second that the teams catch up to the kind of offense they're running, they're toast. Carolina, I think that was more of like a fuck you to the league that all like buried them, and the Saints are a disaster. So the Bucs are a mess, but they're not in any jeopardy to miss the playoffs.
Well, I mean, the Panthers, though, what they've been good at for the last few years is getting to the quarterback. Brian Burns is, I think, the second or third over the last 3 years in sacks. I mean, he certainly got to Brady a few times yesterday, but that is going to be the recipe for disaster in Tampa. And that if there's any type of pressure that can get through that line, which they've been letting in all the damn season so far, that team is going to crumble, unfortunately. That's what it looks like, right?
I just want to correct you. That's the issue everywhere, Caitlin. There's never once been a good team that allowed sacks and quarterback pressures.
Yeah.
It's never. I don't care who your quarterback is and what team you're on.
That's not true. Not true. I think it was the Bengals won multiple games in the playoffs with like giving up 8 and 9 sacks.
Did they win a Super Bowl?
They went to the Super Bowl.
They were this much away.
Yeah. So was the team in Tennessee one time.
Yeah. Oh, that's mean. All right. Well, we don't think that the Bucs are in any trouble as far as making the playoffs. They got some time to figure it out. They don't have a good division. Problem is, Green Bay does have a strong suitor in their division. They can't afford to be dropping games. Can't afford to be dropping back-to-back games, especially when Tyler Henneke, excuse me, is the quarterback. I don't know how they keep building these leads and blowing them. I scratched my head. I actually rewatched the game yesterday just to see like what the hell's going on. I think that Brady and Rodgers are in similar positions where they're not trusting the throws because they're not relying on the guys around them to make plays. And I don't know if it's Matt LaFleur or Aaron Rodgers or a bad O line or a lack of receivers or what it is, but I can tell you that the play calling is definitely a part of it because Aaron Jones isn't getting the catches he needs to, and neither is AJ Dillon, who barely got any work yesterday against a team that he probably should have been getting work against to break down that front seven to make life a little bit easier for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, well, you said Taylor Heineke knocking on this guy a little bit. Everybody's praising Cooper Rush and what he's doing in the NFC East with a team that's been pretty stacked on offense. They're not really that stacked down there in Washington. Taylor's got to be making a name for himself at this point. Is it more of a thing that he's been successful in Washington? Can he actually be the leader there finally when Wentz comes back? Or is it still going to be, well, they're paying him too much, so they got to let him play?
I think there's better receivers in Washington than there is in Dallas.
Whoa, better receivers as a whole, really? I
Yeah,
think there's
look
a
around.
better single receiver. I mean, Scary Terry is amazing. He's certainly a 1A, but CeeDee Lamb isn't that far off. Michael Gallup is pretty good. Noah Brown.
Samuels, Noah Dotson, or Johan Dotson.
I'll take that as a core. I think that
I trust them
Washington,
more.
yeah. I think CD's the only like real guy in Dallas, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Noah Brown is just like another one of those guys in the long list of receivers at Ohio State that make it. I'm not saying he's bad, but I mean, I would put Dotson over him, and I would probably put Samuels over Gallup. So clearly, the Cowboys right now are the better team because neither one of those teams need to rely on their receivers. But yeah, I mean, if that was a vote. But do you think it's Rodgers? Do you think it's LaFleur? Do you think the defense is not as advertised? I mean, what's going wrong in Green Bay?
Defense sucks.
What? Really? Yeah, I was going to say that they just haven't run the friggin' ball. This is Matt LaFleur friggin' football, right? This is supposed to be off of the run, play action, some bootleg type passes. They just give it up. They're not running the ball anymore at all. And unfortunately, I think that in Green Bay, with the offense that you have, it's very, I mean, obviously they have a much better quarterback, but it's very similar to the offense you got in Tennessee. You don't exactly have the wide receivers that are household names. You're going to have to play possession type of football. And that is not going to be having your defense on the field a lot of the game. And it's got to be running the ball and controlling the clock. Unfortunately, you're throwing at people like, what's the 6'4" guy they thought that was going to be really good that hasn't really panned out for them. Was it Watson? Is that his last name? Yeah, and then you've got Sammy Watkins, who people thought was going to be a second or third coming maybe at this point, but they don't have anybody. Like they really don't. They need to lean on the running game. They have two great running backs, right?
Yeah, you have a great run game that you should be using. You have running backs who can catch the ball, and you have a defense that's underachieving. And now Aaron Rodgers, once again, same as Tom Brady, back end of his career, trying to make plays with people he doesn't trust. Now his left tackle's out again. I don't know if Bakhtiari's ever going to play football again.
Yeah, he's had a tough time, and like it's probably been 2 years, and well, I guess 2.5 years if you include what's going on this year. He just can't get healthy, and if you can't get healthy, that's a recipe for disaster, right? The best ability is availability, isn't that what they say?
It's like the top three left tackles or not top three, but like 2 or 3 of the top tackles in the league just have had a rough 2 years. Luan, Stanley, and Bakhtiari just cannot stay up anymore, right? And well, even you had Taron Williams. I mean, the left tackles, like the big guys are just going down, the good ones anyway.
But yeah, I think Green Bay, like they're in a situation where now they got to play catch up to a Vikings team that's rolling. And it's funny because they all get like LaFleur and O'Connell come out of the same tree, but O'Connell's still sticking to that tree. Like he's running the football. He's using Dalvin Cook. He's using him to catch footballs too. The way that Aaron Jones should be used.
Yeah, and they just don't seem to be able to make the adjustments. They get up to a start. We saw it yesterday with Miami. It seems like some of these coaches are really good at scripting plays and getting you off to a lead, but they're not good at calling plays inside the game, and they're not good at adjusting to what the defense is doing around them. kind of tough to bury LaFleur after the start to the first 2 years that he had there, or 3 years, whatever it's been. But right now, it just seems like a guy that is not ready to coach an average team into being a great team, the way that Belichick was able to coach some of those average Patriots teams into great teams.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing with Andy Reid. Andy Reid made some average football teams look pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and your players have to step up, and the players have to make the plays. You know, case in point to that would be what's going on in Cincinnati, off to an 0-2 start. They've muscled their way back, and right now it looks like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are kind of back into the swing of things, which will lead to the question of next year should they be playing in a couple preseason games to get this out of the way so that you don't get off to a bad start. But right now, I would say the Bengals are the class of the AFC North. I don't trust the Ravens. I don't trust the Browns, and the other team is rebuilding. So there's, you know, there's really no other question in that division right now. If it came down to it, I think that the Bengals will shit stomp the Ravens.
Oof.
yeah, I think the Bengals are. It's easily they're the best team in the North now. To talk to your point about the preseason, I don't think those playing the 17 games. I think going 0-2 actually doesn't make a difference. Um, and if I can take a chance of not putting my best players on the field to take a hit, especially one who came off injury 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and Joe Burrow, I don't care if it's a preseason game or the Super Bowl. I think he's going to play the game the same way. I don't think he has an off switch.
Fair
So
enough.
I don't think you can trust him not to go out there and not take a hit. And as far as Jamar Chase goes, like same kind of deal. Like I can't risk losing one of those guys because I need them when it matters. Um, so if that means you take an 0-2 start and you start a bit slower, I think that's okay. You know the state of your division going into the season. Like you knew Cleveland wasn't going to get Deshaun Watson. We don't even know what Deshaun Watson's ever going to see again, or if we'll ever see him again.
Right.
But you're playing as a backup quarterback. We all knew Pittsburgh, the state they were in. We knew they were rebuilding. Yeah, Mike Tomlin's never a losing season. He still might not have one this year, but like as a maybe.
Yeah, you
Trying to
know
be
it's
maybe.
coming, Shade. You know it.
But like it's one of those things like you know you're going to take care of your division. So that to me, like to start 0-2, not the end of the world. But yeah, no, I think you just can't let those guys take hits.
Right. Well, and you might be right. And with the O line that they've had, and even the O line they went and paid for, Burrow is still taking hits. I guess it's not like they just beat a world beater, but they did slow down and take the Atlanta offense out of the game because the way that they run it is kind of what Kalen was describing with Tennessee and somebody else. It's a lot of ball control that they need, but Cincinnati was just boat racing them right out of the building.
Oh, it didn't help that AJ Terrell went down like about 2 and 3 minutes into the game, right on defense. When you're like the second or third ranked corner of last year goes down like that, it's not going to do much. You got Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. These guys are going to be dotting all day long.
Yeah, and even more than that, I mean, Hayden Hurst is there too. So
yeah,
there's just no way to get around what they're doing. And if they can figure out how to run the ball, and if the coach doesn't get too involved, I think that they have an opportunity to get themselves back to the playoffs and get themselves maybe to make some noise in the playoffs, even though the AFC is super strong. And I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about tonight's game, but I don't feel like tonight's game is very strong. So for me, I needed to place a wager. So I went to Coolback Canada, made a little bet builder, not just one to make a little bit of money, because this one is swinging for the fences. So get your pencils ready. Um, Justin Fields over 170 for passing. Uh, Khalil Herbert over 34 and a half rushing. Cole Kmet over 20 receiving. Darnell Mooney to score a touchdown and the game to stay under 49 and a half, which I think is, I mean, Chicago's in it. There's no way it's going to go over. Plus 4,000.
Like all those bets on Chicago's offense?
Yeah, you always fade the public.
Yeah, right.
Always.
Fade the
And
public. I like it.
and they're going to be down. And because they're down, that's why I think Justin Fields will get his thing. This feels like it's going to be like I don't know,
It's gonna
28
be
to
like
like 3 or 28-7 maybe. I don't know.
I was thinking like 17-14 is how this bad boy is gonna play it.
Really, I just think that
Ooh.
New England's defense gonna hate it. They might get 23 points on their own.
I hope so.
No,
'Cause I got him in fantasies. That'd be
Me too.
phenomenal for me.
you know, it seems like Belichick has trouble against the kind of quarterbacks that they should just massacre. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I think this might be a Justin Fields kind of day, but they're not going to win.
So we were talking about the points scored for the Bucs before at 124 not being very good. The Bears 93. That's not what the fans pay for, is it?
Oh, I'm like we're getting plus money at Justin Fields over 170 for passing yards, and
Good shit.
that's basically like a decent offense's first half. So uh, it'll be interesting. At least it got a little bit of money riding on it. Now I also lost a little bit of money on these motherfuckers yesterday, and that's the Chargers. And I'm kind of sick of the Chargers. I think Brandon Staley might be the worst coach that has ever touched a football field. And that's saying a lot because I've watched a lot of Cleveland Browns coaches and Cincinnati coaches kind of work their way through here. I don't think that he understands what he's doing. I think that he was a really good defensive coordinator. They have way too many good players in LA. Um, I just there's no words that come to mind on how I can describe this team other than shitty, and they're not a playoff team, and they're making Justin Herbert look like a completely different guy. I get that he's hurt. Mike Williams just went down. That's going to obviously impact them moving forward, but this might be. We thought there was an opportunity for 4 teams to come out of the AFC West. I think it's pretty. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. It's just the one.
I think Staley's on the hot seat as well this year. I don't know how he's not.
Has to be. They spent too much money.
Third year on your quarterback. You spent all these free agents, and you brought pieces in. You had the rookie of the year, and then he had an even better second year, which doesn't always happen. And like the sky was the limit for him this year. Like take that like Josh Allen type of step is what was expected out of him, and it did not happen. He said yes, he's banged up. There's stars all around him on offense, and then you brought in all these pieces on defense, and we make fun of the Jaguars for spending all this money. Is no one going to talk about the money that the Chargers just spending? Or just they might have one game up on the Jags right now. Because we know the Jaguars suck.
Yeah, exactly. And all everything that you're saying makes sense. And they went out and they traded for Khalil Mack, and they went and signed J.C. Jackson, who just got ruled out for the rest of the year. And Derwin James got a huge contract, and he probably deserves it. But if all of these guys are getting paid exorbitant amounts of money and no one's doing anything, like how do you get blown out like that at home to the Seahawks? This is another team that I was chase betting because I thought that for sure this thing was going to even out, but it did not.
Well, to be fair now I will agree that they are making Herbert look like a different quarterback to making him shelter himself for some reason rather than be a gunslinger like he used to be. But you talk about the team that he's had built around him. Keenan Allen hasn't been there like all fucking season. I mean, he played this last game. Finally, his hamstring's been blown out his entire last 3 years of his career. Then you had Mike Williams, you mentioned, that went down. Both his tight ends that are there have gone down, and they lost Hunter Henry in the last couple of years to free agency as well. Joey Bosa has been out since the beginning of the season. J.C. Jackson only has one game and maybe a half of a game so far into this season on a big free agent contract because he's been hurt and been sidelined for the whole season so far. And now he's done for the entire year with a dislocated knee, it looks like. Like they invested a lot of money, and it seems like the only players that are playing right now is Khalil Mack. Like everybody else hasn't been able to play, unfortunately. And that's what's that?
Sounds like a lot of bad investments.
It is a lot, and that there's got to be a lot of buyer's remorse. But I mean, this comes down to, again, one more time, SoFi Stadium has taken out how many legs over the last 2 years since the place has been opened up? When are we going to learn, right? These are simple injuries that seem to be happening, routine type plays like the run yesterday with J.C. Jackson. How does that running play dislocate a kneecap? There's nothing about that play that was abnormal that would make a knee pop out to me, right? So unfortunately, they've been bitten by the injury bug. They got a lot of money wrapped up, and there's going to be a lot more money that's coming to the cap in the next couple of years as those contracts begin to grow, and then they have to sign Herbert again, right? So I don't know, man. I'm not gonna. And there's Sean Slater, like their left tackle. We talked again earlier about left tackles being out. This is another tackle that's been gone for the most of the season, unfortunately, with injury. You can't have a guy like Rashawn Slater out and expect that Justin Herbert, who's already banged up, can run an offense well without his pieces around him. Unfortunately.
Do you still think? But like that's still like all that says is that Staley's getting fired at the end of the season to me.
Yeah, there's too much money invested in this. I don't think that they're a playoff team. They're definitely not a make noise in the playoffs kind of team. These guys are not coming back. A hamstring injury is going to take a little bit of time, even if Keenan Allen can play the next game, which I think they're going into a bye. But even if he can play the next game, he's not going to be in full stride. They do need Mike Williams, and I think that's a huge loss for them. But we're what basically a little over a third, like we're 40% of the way through the season, and they haven't shown anything. Khalil Mack had 3 sacks, I believe, in the first game of the season, and has been just a shell of himself since. Whatever's going on there, the team is not captivated, and they're not interested, and it's the complete opposite of what's happening in Seattle, who just rinsed them. And for some reason, Seattle has decided that they're all the best football players in the league. Geno Smith, who I already told you I think is the comeback player of the year already, continues to do what he's doing. I think that the DK Metcalf injury is going to hurt. I don't know what the longevity looks like for the Seahawks, because I think that their defense actually sucks. And overall, most of the games that they've won, they've been giving up like a decent chunk of points to go along with it. So all it's going to take is maybe a little bit of stronger competition, perhaps when they get back inside their own division. But there's a huge game going on in that division this week, and between the Rams and the 49ers, which I think McCaffrey will be much more in, which, you know, the McCaffrey thing, I think that we all kind of bounced that around last week. It's definitely nice that McCaffrey landed where I thought he was going to. And I wish that there was a betting line for that, because I definitely would have went and put some money on that. But how you feel about the Seahawks? How do you feel about their chances in the West? And then if you have an opinion on McCaffrey.
I just think the Seahawks they're a bunch of overachievers right now. I think that's what it comes down to, which is a great thing. I just don't know how long it's going to play out for when they get into some real talented teams. But yeah, Geno Smith, like, it's really funny because we he was a laughing joke when he was at the Jets.
Oh, horrible!
Like,
and
that's
when
the
he replaced Eli Manning.
And but to my question is, look who he sat on the bench behind, and cheers to him for that, taking that time and learning how to play in the NFL. Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and then Russell Wilson. Somewhere along that time, he learned how to play football in the NFL. He got rolled. Like, there was no good players with the Jets. Like, every quarterback went through there. It was a rough go. We knew what it was. But he stuck it out. All he was good at playing in the league, and we just never got to see it. Now he's getting the best of another opportunity. He learned how to play football. He got older, got more mature, I think, too. And now he's playing the game the right way. And is he a top 10 quarterback in this league? Stats right now say yes. Is that can keep it up for a full season? Hopefully, for the Seahawks. It definitely shows. I think Russ was the problem, which I think is the best part of this whole story.
Yeah, and like the Marshawn Lynch story that kind of broke about Russ, and how he used to make his teammates arrange for meetings through his business manager instead of, like, they weren't allowed to just text him directly. I think that that's hilarious, and it definitely speaks to. We talked about it last week, I guess, and I don't know if you heard it, Galen, but I asked Chad and Josh if the NFL should consider fining or suspending somebody in the Seahawks organization for the robbery and fleece job that they did to the Broncos, because it seems like they got everything they wanted and they got everything that they needed. The Broncos are flailing. Russell Wilson is swirling down the toilet, and Billy Ripken, or whoever that was playing quarterback for the Broncos this week, didn't look any worse than Russ. So I don't know. Well, I don't know what's going on.
Breaking news here before we go. James Robinson's getting traded to the Jets here to replace Breece Hall. So that's from the Jags just came out.
Yeah. My prediction was right later in the show. Just kidding. No, it wasn't right.
Yeah. Now, Here's what I got to say, though, about the Seahawks, right? They got an identity, and they've had an identity for 10 years. Their identity is that they're going to run the ball heavily, right? That's what they've done since Marshawn Lynch has been there. They had Penny, they had Carson. Now they've got Kenneth Walker, who's done a significant, like a great job as a rookie running back, who started the season late, finding his legs, and has done really, really good the last couple of games. They're not asking Geno to take mad or crazy shots downfield. And when they do, it comes back to, again, DK got hurt this last game, but it comes back to what I've said before about Russell Wilson being this moonshot throwing quarterback. He had wide receivers that did a lot more for him than I feel he did for them. So I think that they're able to make Geno look really. I don't want to take a lot away from Geno because you have to win as a quarterback to be regarded as good in this league. So he's getting W's, but I still think that he's leaning on the running game successfully, and his wide receivers are making plays for him. Right, that's all he can ask for.
Yeah, fair enough. And I, like I said, I think it's gonna even itself out. I think that the Seahawks are gonna be the nice, like a nice story. I do think that there's a massive game in that division that is going to impact. Because right now, if the season ended, the Seahawks win the division, which is kind of gross.
Wild.
But yeah, but 49ers, Rams. This will be. I don't know. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a game that's going to be featured later on in the year once McCaffrey gets his legs under him as well. But it'll be interesting to see how they work him in. I don't know what this means for Jeff Wilson. It didn't seem like it impacted him, but getting this guy out into the slot and playing a little bit of receiver, he's just an offensive weapon. Limit the amount of big hits he needs to take. But if McCaffrey can figure out this Shanahan running scheme, the league might be in trouble.
I think it's going to open up George Kittle too a whole lot more as well because now you can't get a back run right off the line.
Right.
Hands on him, that means a safety has to stay there, which means you can't put two over top of Debo. Like if you actually look at who they have, like they have Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, and McCaffrey. You can't double team all of them. And if you want to go 4, you could actually still put Jeff Wilson in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
You could put those 4 guys out wide and still run a single back with Wilson. There's 5 weapons you can touch the ball.
Scary.
And Jimmy is not a massive deep ball thrower, but he's a pretty smart quarterback, I feel, pretty snap-wise. And all those, he could pretty much make a play before he ever even takes a snap. You're going to have a mismatch somewhere.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And it was a huge get. And I know everyone's talking about all the draft picks that the 49ers gave up. None of those draft picks were a first round. And I think it's well worth it. Obviously, they got to pay this guy a lot of money, but it's well worth it if it gets them over to the hump of what the NFC Championship game was last year.
They haven't picked in the top 5 last 3 years. It's like you're giving up a top 6, maybe not even a top 55 pick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best pick you're giving them.
We're really living on the laurels of what this guy did 3 years ago, then, eh? I'm talking about CMC. Like, we're all really hoping that he can return to what we saw 3 years ago, which is pretty.
Are you watching Saquon play right now? Saquon's doing the same thing.
Yeah. I agree. I just think it's pretty unlikely. I think this guy, with all the draft capital they gave up, all the money they've invested, and where they're going to be sitting at next to the cap, this guy even realistically sees like maybe one more season there in San Francisco. They're going to be pretty hamstrung here. Their defense is pretty tight, and they're not going to want to be. When it comes down to a running back who's gotten you 400 yards rushing over the last couple of years and maybe a few hundred yards receiving, when you've had a stable of running backs that have done that exact same position, I was really baffled. I know why San Francisco got in on it because they didn't want the Rams to get him. But after everything that they've done, what CMC brought is every single bit of the abilities that they brought through that team. The only reason those 2 players haven't played is because of injury. And now we've got another injured running back who's bringing the same skill set that you've just had 6 or 7 guys come through over the last 3 years. I thought it was just a really silly draft or giving up draft capital like that, but I get it. You don't want a guy in that division. I get it.
And he's a local hero. I mean, the Stanford
the Cali boy
fan is I mean, it makes sense. It made a lot of sense. It's why I assumed he was going to go there. If we were talking about injury and we were talking about him going to Buffalo, I understand because it gets colder, it gets tighter, things get weird. He's playing in Northern California. The weather, it's going to be nice and comfortable. I think he's going to be fine. I'm not going to bury somebody or call them injury prone if they have a hamstring injury. Soft tissue isn't making you injury prone. It just is what it is. He seems fine this year. Seems more healthy. I think he's got better players around him. He will rise to the guys around him.
You got to remember too, this team is literally the last few years they've been right on the cusp. If they don't take a chance, then what are they actually doing? If you're just only playing to be second place to the Rams, you got to take that chance, or you're never going to win your division. You're never going to get any further. They're in the Super Bowl 3 years ago. They went to the NFC Championship game last year. They're right there knocking on the door. That team's built to win now. Also, we all know Jimmy's not coming back next year. You don't got to pay your quarterback for 3 more years. So, like, if you're going to make a move, this is the time to do it.
So question then. Jimmy takes you guys to the promised land after making a trade for CMC. You still don't go back to him? You still don't pay him? You still go back to the rookie that's unproven that got hurt a couple of games in playing the way that he wanted to play?
I've never once said they should have Trey Lance. I've been very against it the whole time. I think it's a waste of a fucking draft pick. But they don't have a choice. They're built to win now. If they make their run now, if they don't win, they go with Trey. If they do win, thanks for your time, Jimmy. Sorry, we're going with Trey. It wasn't you. It was the pieces around you. That's how they're going to spin it.
Right. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they did spend a third-round pick. They did trade up to get to where they needed to be. I think the only thing that they could probably imagine is they're probably glad that they didn't spend that third-round pick on Mac Jones, who hasn't looked like a third overall pick, but neither did Trey Lance. And I don't know. I don't understand why they made the move unless they really felt bad or felt really bad about the ability that Jimmy G has. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I would have gladly taken him for a year in Pittsburgh, but I don't know. Whatever they're doing there, their run game, they could put any running back in the backfield and they make them good. If you put a good running back in your backfield, they make them great. So I think the trade makes sense. And if he goes and gets hurt, then you never know. But I fully expected him to garner a first round pick for Carolina, but with the draft capital Carolina needed, they only had 4 picks going into like the next year. So it's definitely good for them. For the NFC, sticking around in the NFC, we can all agree the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, right? Like they've done enough, 6 games in a row, they've beaten the teams. Then you move to the second place team in the NFC. And I was thinking about this. Is it the Cowboys or the Giants? First of all, and why is it not those 2 teams we talked about earlier in the show?
Well, I think it's Cowboys. Cowboys are able to win with Cooper Rush.
You're going against the Giants? I teed you up for this. I thought you'd be all over it. Danny Dimes, Brian Dable.
I know, and I think that they just have that they got fortunate in Jacksonville. I know there was a fumble there that they got, but they've been getting fortunate having the ball late and being able to score late and take the lead late and win the game late. You obviously got to score to make that happen, but I think the Cowboys with Dak Prescott being back, being able to win like they have with Cooper Rush, leaning on the defense the way they have. The secondary is getting interceptions. Trayvon Diggs is actually playing defense and instead of trying to bait. Micah Parsons, even injured, is still getting sacks. Ezekiel Elliott's playing great inside the 20. Like there's just so many things that are stacking right now for the Cowboys that now they get their game manager in Ryan Tannehill 2.0 and Dak Prescott back. And I think that they'll be able to make some waves in the NFC.
Yeah, the Cowboys are the next best team. Pretty much for every point that Kalen said. My notes said the defense is playing lights out. They got players at every level. The DB, like I said, Trayvon isn't taking chances now. He's taking calculated risks opposed to chances. I feel now. Parsons might be one of the best defenders to play in the next 10 years. He started off his career with a bang, and yeah, like Zeke is eating again. He's starting to get moving again. He's playing tough. They have Tony Pollard to change the pace up. The receivers are good enough, and Dak is good enough. A couple of years ago, I said Dak might be one of the better quarterbacks in this league. I might have overshot that a little bit, but I think he's a good quarterback, and I think what they're paying him is the right dollar actually about now. But they need him on the field. That's the thing, because he can win you games. I don't think Cooper Rush could. That was the difference. And with the talent they have, I think Dak's the right guy for them. And unfortunately, the Giants you don't know what you're going to get yet. The defense is significantly better than it was. Saquon being back changes everything, and it makes Danny look really good. The problem with Daniel Jones too, and it's the same issue I have with the Eagles right now, is he's running a lot, but he's not built like Jalen Hurts.
Right.
He has more rushing yards than Najee Harris. I just saw that today.
Well, he had like 109 against Jacksonville, right? So that was a lot. And yeah, I'm not against the Giants. I think that the Giants have a probable chance to make the playoffs the way that the NFC is. They're probably a wild card team. I doubt that they're going to catch the Eagles, but I would also agree, and it's not fun that all three of us are agreeing about the Cowboys. But how much fun would it be if we're at the end of July or end of January and we're watching Cowboys, Eagles, Bills, Chiefs to see who's going to the Super Bowl? I think that'll be wild.
No, it wouldn't be. I got a team making noise right now in the South. Okay, Shane. But
you're next.
No,
you're next on my list.
Another reason why I would take the Cowboys is just straight up one. They've already beat the Giants, right? And they beat them without Dak Prescott too, right? In that game.
Yeah.
So I think that's another reason why I got to lean on them. And you can't help who you play, but the teams that the Giants have played, Tennessee included, they're not like the best teams versus the teams that the Cowboys have had to play with that second string quarterback and still getting wings. I think that's where you got to toot their horn, right?
Yeah, and we should probably reward Kalen because this is the longest we've ever gone on the show without the Tennessee Titans being mentioned. So that's fantastic.
I do have a question though. I
Yeah.
had this today. Saquon and Daniel Jones, they didn't pick up the options. So what is going to happen? And if you can only pay one, who do you keep?
I think if you can only pay one, then you keep Daniel Jones because your quarterback's going to be harder to find than a running back. And Daniel Jones probably has 10 years in his career, and Saquon has 3.
I don't know. I think that the way that Daniel Jones plays, it's nothing that's like special, right? He's a very mediocre type quarterback. I think you can do a lot leaning on the run game, and they've got great receivers that are there. You can get another mediocre quarterback and be okay.
Because like what I was thinking was, at first I was thinking on your side, Shane. It's like Saquon has been injury prone, been banged up, running backs don't last. But the Daniel Jones this year with Saquon is significantly better than the one that he is without Saquon. So to me, that says it's Saquon Barkley. It's not Daniel Jones. And there's a guy out in San Francisco probably looking for a job next year. Do you imagine him coming into that team?
Trey Lance?
No, the other one.
This team goes from the least amount of cap space in the league to like the 4th or 5th highest. They're gonna have $53 million coming into the offseason.
Yeah, and those are the kind of teams that you want to rally around. I guess how much would you pay Daniel Jones and how much would you have to pay Saquon Barkley? If you look at it, you're probably thinking Barkley's getting at least 15 a year, and Daniel Jones is going to get at minimum 25 a year. So if you're trying, like, the cap can break that down, but if you have 53 million, I would think like 25 to 27 of that's getting eaten up by those two guys if you decide to bring them both back. But that's probably still cheaper than if you would have picked up the 5th-year option on both of them. I don't have the math in front of me, but that's my guess.
5th-year option is about $30 million right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Now, I don't know if you were leading into something else. I know we've got a little bit of time coming up here. Speaking of guaranteed money and wasting it and all that jazz. So Matt Ryan has been announced that he's getting the bench, boys.
Oh, yeah.
23.5 million guaranteed this season, 20 million next, and 12 after that. Giddy up or safer. It was a $56 million he signed on the dotted line after that trade. I fucking love the Colts when they screw up like this, man. Has there been a bigger hit to a franchise for a retirement than what Luck did to the Colts? I can't think of any sport where a franchise has been riddled with problems at the quarterback position or any position from a significant retirement like this.
You want to know why they deserve this? Because their fan base fucking booed him.
Yes. Yeah.
That guy literally gave them everything he had in his body, broke his neck, and decided maybe life is actually more important than playing football. And those fucking losers in Indianapolis booed him.
Especially because it wasn't even his fault. Somebody fucking leaked it. They didn't even have the chance for him to talk, right? It was like mid-game that they leaked it. Poor guy.
So yeah. Also, if I never shoot in Indianapolis, I might get murdered down there. But
Yeah.
for those
Yeah.
losers down there, booing a guy who's a broken neck, I can't cheer for them. Like I like to cheer for them to piss off Kalen, but that's about it. And like they deserve this quarterback situation. Also, stop chasing quarterbacks who are 38 years old.
Yeah.
And paying them significant money.
Like I watch the McAfee show pretty much every day. I've never seen so many guys get hyped as they did when they find out Ellinger was playing today or this week.
Sam Ellinger, yeah.
Yeah, they were fucking.
And not only is he playing, but Matt Ryan's not even the second string.
Yeah,
Matt Ryan's the third.
Yeah.
Well,
so they did. Again.
They did reference that Matt Ryan's dealing with a shoulder injury. So,
well, yeah, I guess the rumor was like 3 hours ago said that like they think his shoulder's done. Like that's why they're saying like this is go off to the wayside anyway. Now, I have to brag. We haven't talked about the Titans all night, so I want to be able to say a couple things here because it was a Colts game, right?
I told you were next on the list. You just kept cutting me off and just bouncing around to different things.
I don't know if you guys remember or not. Remember when the draft was in Tennessee and Reggie Wayne went in on the Titans about how the Colts dogged the Titans every year, that he was a Colts player and all that shit? Since he said that, the Colts are 1-7 against us. I love it. And he's a wide receiver coach there too. And the wide receivers really haven't been playing too well, have they?
Well, I mean,
they have a quarterback with a bad shoulder.
They're not the most stacked. I think that entire coaching staff in Indy is going to get fired this year. But because you're talking about the Titans, quick injury update on the quarterback. It looks like Malik Willis is going to be starting next week, right?
I don't know, man. It's a high ankle sprain. I mean, he walked out in a walking boot. But yeah, after he got injured, he only threw the ball twice the entire game after getting hurt. So I don't know how much they're going to be. Now, they did try to bring in Malik in some trick plays yesterday. Maybe they'll try that again. But unfortunately, it was a fumble in the one play they tried, right? So.
Yeah, well, the last high ankle sprain was Mac Jones. He missed 2 weeks. Depending on the severity, we'll see. Who do the Titans even have this week?
I got Houston this week.
Yeah,
so the division game.
I'd be giving Malik Jones first team reps all week long, and I'd be saying, Tannehill, you sit in your boot and you just watch.
That's right. Keep that foot elevated and just chill out, right? Because you've got to be rested. Because even if this week you do, in fact, so we're already 2 up in the division. The following week we got the Chiefs. Like you got to be ready in 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, exactly. Get yourself ready. You got Derrick Henry. You got Hilliard. Just literally hand the ball off 70 times and throw the ball if you need to, just to keep the defense honest, and just see what happens from there. And really quickly before we forget, we always got to thank our friends over at the Hot Sauce Co. Make sure you're checking out the website. 15% off of your order, and they'll ship it to you. And probably coming this week, we'll have another quick announcement from those guys. So stay tuned for that. What do you guys want to do? You guys want to do a little bit of rapid fire for the last 10 minutes here, or do you want to?
This football game sucks tonight, so we should probably make it more interesting.
Okay. What does the Lions quarterback future look like to you?
You want to go first?
Whoever.
They're drafting a quarterback in the first round. There's too much talent there. Goff. Jared Goff, that's the name. Fuck. I said Jeff. Threw me off the 2 F's on Goff.
Jeff Goff is on his way out the door.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, Jared Goff's on his way out the door. We knew he was a Band-Aid when he came over in that trade anyways. I think he overachieved at the end of last season.
I think that you're giving him a compliment because Band-Aids stop bleeding.
Yeah, it's just got worse and worse, I guess.
That's been in your back pocket for a minute, hasn't it? I like that line.
And yeah, there's so much talent coming out in the first round next year. You're going to get to pick whoever you choose to. And at the route they're going, they're going to have first pick overall, which is nothing new in Detroit.
Well,
the other thing is,
I was going to say, based on the current mock drafts, would you take C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young?
I have no idea yet.
Neither
Stroud,
is an option. You could take the kid from Kentucky who looks like Josh Allen.
Yeah. The other option I think is I think Motor City Dan Campbell's fired.
Agreed.
They need, if they're going to go and draft a quarterback, you have to get an offensive-minded and quarterback coach. You have to baby this kid coming in. You have to do it the right way. You can't keep doing it the way you've done for 25 years and putting yourself back in the same predicament.
I have the guy they're going to hire too. I'll put
Is
that in
it?
my predictions, but you keep going.
So I think the feel good story about biting off kneecaps and climb till we can't climb no more. We're gonna keep on punching. It was a cool line. It was fun for a year, but last year you won 4 games. Right now you're 1-5. I don't care how many games you almost won. Those are still losses.
Mhm.
And like we talked about WAR last week, Shane wins over above replace whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
And now how many wins with the Lions have they had a real fucking football coach? You kept them in the game, and you got a lot of garbage time points. But if you had a proper coach there, would you have been in those situations in the first place?
Right. So Dan Campbell's WAR is probably like -5.
About that.
Now, like with Jared Goff being such a handcuff on this team, though, they cut him next year. That's an easy $30 million in savings. Like they could have $40 million in cap room just from simply getting rid of Jared Goff and then going at that high quarterback. This could be another team that goes, holy shit, we're gonna have 5 years to surround this player, and they've already got 3 really really good offensive linemen under contract for some time too. Can you imagine how strong Detroit could be if that is in fact the route they go and they actually hit a home run and the quarterback actually pans out of the draft? And that could be really, really good for the franchise, right?
Just be a fucking home run. Just don't suck.
Yeah, you got
and you'll be one of the best
receivers.
quarterbacks I've had.
You got receivers, you got tight end, you got your running back positions already taken care of. They need a little bit of help on defense, and they need a quarterback. And I wouldn't say that they're a juggernaut by any means, but at least they're not getting moral victories. And the most exciting part of their season isn't going to be hosting Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're the up and coming team of the NFC North over the next couple of years, right? We've had to been saying that for a few years now, but everything looks like they've got to finally hit.
Yeah, and look, I mean, as far as bringing in a better coach, an offensive-minded coach, it's gonna be Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City, who has figured out a way to coach offense without just sending your receivers running either which way until you tire the defense out and then run upfield. Somehow they have managed to have more splash plays without Tyreek Hill. The offense seems like it's running more efficiently. Juju Smith-Schuster is getting his legs back under him. Valdez-Scantling looks like he's better than he's ever been, and he was, I don't know, never great in Green Bay. But you pair that up with Kelsey. Sky Moore is going to start coming out of the woodwork here soon.
Hopefully he learns how to field a punt.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you're going to make a mistake here or there as a rookie, but Mecole Hardman, another guy that they're finding ways to make it happen. They're not. It doesn't look gimmicky or goofy anymore. It looks like real offense. Looks like something that can be carried into another team, and that was the biggest criticism that Chad and I had for him, was that we didn't think that he was a real offensive coach this year. Whether he went, but maybe that, you know what, like, we're not flies on the wall. Maybe that's what people told him when he went into interviews, was like, your shit's too gimmicky. Go figure it out. Go prove you know how to do this. I think that he's done it so far. I could see him coaching in Detroit. And it looks like it, to me, that would be my prediction. And this is coming from a guy that predicted last year's World Series champion, this year's World Series champion, who just clinched their spot into the World Series, which is the Phillies, and the Christian McCaffrey trade. So I don't know. Maybe Shane Stradamus knows what's going on around the world. Maybe not.
Give you 2 numbers.
Shane Stradamus?
28 carries per game is what they're averaging.
Mm-hmm.
That was not happening the last 3 years. I'll tell you that right now.
Definitely
126 yards rushing per game. And the big one, though, is because they're probably doing those 2 things very well, they're 52% on third downs right now.
Wow.
That is wild. And I'm assuming, like, I didn't go to the full breakdown in depth of it. If you're running the ball well on first and second down, you don't have to go far on third down. It makes it a whole lot easier.
Right.
If you're third and short, you can also run the ball. And if you're averaging over almost 5 yards a carry, because of your speed that you have everywhere else, it opens up that middle. If you run the ball 30 times a game almost, you're going to win. It's that simple.
Right. And all the stuff that they're doing is making it so that it's a sure thing that he's going to get a head coaching job. He might end up in Carolina. I think Detroit would be a great fit for him, especially if they're bringing in a new quarterback and they already got some weapons there. He could step right in and take care of things. Another quarterback, rookie quarterback, only quarterback as a rookie that's really been like the standout for the team. Is Kenny Pickett a guy in the NFL, or will he be the guy for Pittsburgh?
That throw to Pat Fryermuth and at the the last minute and a half there, that throw alone tells me he's going to be an NFL quarterback for a while.
Right.
I'm not going to harp on him for the interception he threw at the end there. I get it. He probably could have taken 10 yards or 15 yards, but he probably would have run the clock, and that would have been the bad play to make. If Deontay Johnson got his head around a half second, and that's not on Deontay either, right? I mean, we're just talking about a half second the other way. That's probably a touchdown, right?
Right.
It was the proper throw. It was the proper play call. It was the right thing to do for a rookie quarterback to throw it downfield rather than tuck his head and run and probably run out the clock. And then the throw right prior to that to Pat Fryermuth. I think that this kid's going to be around for a long time, especially when you get to lean on the defense that the Steelers have.
And when you're a rookie quarterback and your defense sets a new NFL record, which is most drops interceptions in a game, that's a real stat. That happened. It was
the story of the game was that their team caught them and your team didn't, right?
No. What it is for the fact that he was able to keep his wits about him and the fact that he wasn't rattled by the moment. He had 2 different possessions within the last 3.5 minutes in which he was able to lead them down the field. Yes, they resulted in interceptions. But even as a Steelers fan, you guys know that I'm a fairly big Steelers fan. I didn't even feel bad at the end of the game because I felt like at least they're building towards something.
My thing is he's taking chances.
Yeah.
Like as a rookie, there's 2 ways you can play it. Take chances and learn, or play it safe, and like you're already losing anyways, and then you're just getting by. Peyton Manning threw 30 fucking interceptions as a rookie. Why? He took chances. They gave him a playbook, and they said, "Here, this whole thing's yours." Mike Tomlin has been in this game for a long fucking time, and he's won. So I'm not going to question what Mike Tomlin does. If he thinks this is his guy, I'm telling you right now, that's an NFL caliber quarterback. They saw him every day for 4 years in Pittsburgh.
So the report coming out of Pittsburgh, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Leading into the draft was this is the most pro-ready quarterback that we've seen in a draft since Joe Burrow. And I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett's Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow also wasn't Joe Burrow until he got drafted by the Bengals. So if he can be that, or if he can be 80% of that, I think that the Steelers have a better defense than the Bengals, and that will benefit him long term. I don't know. I got no bad things to say about the Steelers. I think they're building in the right direction. They're going to probably trade Chase Claypool this week. How about a playoff team, a team that's going to make the playoffs that is currently sitting under 500 at the moment?
Well, I think the safe pick's Tampa Bay. We already touched on that, so we can just exclude them from this list.
Yeah.
I think San Francisco.
Okay.
3-4. They're only a game back in their division. Huge game this week. If they win this week, worst case, they're still only a game back. If they lose, I think they'll have to pretty much run the table. I think pretty much dominate the rest of the way. But they have all the weapons there and a very good defense. And that trade they made for CMC has made it that much clearer that they're going all in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that they're going to be able to do all the right things, and they're going to be fine moving forward. I don't know if they win the division because, you know what, the Rams have proven to kind of been able to turn it on. And if they get Odell, then maybe the Rams are a little bit more significant. But right now, I would say that they're a favorite.
I'm going to come down. I was actually just going to bring the team up, actually, for our last thoughts. Arizona. I'm not liking what happened in yesterday's game with Kyler, or not yesterday's, but Thursday's game when Kyler Murray came off and he's like, calm the fuck down to his coach. That's not looking too hot. These guys are locked at the hip, the GM, the coach, and the quarterback for the next decade, it seems anyway. But I do think that them getting Nuck Hopkins back clearly is great for the offense. They just need to be able to get Hollywood Brown whenever he's going to be available again. Get Rondell Moore back in the game. They're running the ball okay. I do think that this is a team that defensively can, win some games. So they're in a tough division. But if I'm looking for a team that's sub 500 right now that I think can make a push, I don't see why Arizona can't make it with Nuck being back on the field. That guy's good for 3-4 wins himself. I saw it in Houston.
Yeah, and you know what? For all the reasons to not pick it, I'm gonna say the Raiders, even at 2-4, can get themselves back into this thing. They got the offense to score. I think Josh Jacobs has been one of those players that if you don't watch Raiders games, you don't realize what he's doing for them and what he's been able to do. Derek Carr needs to get out of his own way and just throw the ball to Adams. Holland seems like he can get open as soon as Waller's back healthy. I think that they're good enough to get over the hump, and I could see them sneaking in as the 7 seed and kind of making a little bit of noise in the playoffs. How about a team that is over 500 currently that will not make the playoffs?
Oh,
Chargers.
Chargers? Is that what you said?
Yeah. You banged up, man. And
you know
for
what?
all the reasons we talked about earlier, it's funny because like we're all coming full circle here, but I thought like they're inconsistent, and I just don't think they have any leadership.
Yeah.
Short and sweet for all the reasons we talked about earlier. Those are my notes I wrote down. There's no leadership.
I got one if you're not ready, Kalen.
You know, I'm going to go with Seattle. I don't think Seattle can keep this train going. They still got to play the Giants, the Cards, as I just mentioned, who I think can get hot, the Niners, the Chiefs, the Jets, the Rams. Like, this team has got to fall off. It's got to happen, especially with DK not being on the team.
Yeah, and for me, I'm gonna say the Miami Dolphins because they are not very good. I'm gonna. I thought that the team that beat Buffalo was okay, and you know what? They stifled the Buffalo offense. They did what they needed to do. Yesterday's game, and earlier I kind of alluded to it, and I kind of alley-ooped myself, and now I'm gonna dunk it home. Mike McDaniel does not know how to call a game. He knows how to script plays, and that is why they torched the Steelers in the first quarter. They got 10 points quickly. They got 13 points even quicker than that. Wasn't able to scheme open the fastest player in the league in Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle, even though he had 88 yards, that was really on 3 catches. So not being able to scheme open his guys, they definitely knew how to draw up the right plays. They scripted the first 15, and it looked great. Raheem Mustard, again, another running back that can do damage. Everything that the Steelers threw at them, they didn't really have an answer for. The fact that you had them on the rope so many times and the Steelers turned the ball over 4 times in that game and you mustered up 16 points, I'm not comfortable with that. That was a home game in front of the 72 Dolphins, the only undefeated team, and that's the best you could muster. Your fan base sucks. You couldn't even sell at your stadium if it wasn't for the black and gold towels waving around there. I don't believe in the team. I don't believe in the fan base. I think that the Dolphins should just go to the CFL and fuck right off.
How do you really feel?
Now that we got that out there. All right, really quickly, finish it off here. Trade targets. You got any trade targets and where they might end up? Because no one cares about our predictions for the Patriots and the Bears.
Obviously, I think the Green Bay is going after a receiver. I don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be Chase, Jerry Jeudy, or Brandon Cooks. I think any of them could play there.
Yep.
And then on the other one is Robert Quinn. He's had a massive year last year. Not to a slow start this year. Bears are definitely rebuilding. And who doesn't want a pass rusher going down the stretch?
Mm-hmm. Well, go ahead, Kalen. You got one in mind?
Couple tight ends. I think Gesicki is going to be gone. He's been an absolute no-show this season so far in Miami. Could certainly get picked up somewhere. And right off the Titans, man, I think that Austin Hooper has been mentioned a couple of times. I think that he had a good game this past Sunday, National Tight Ends Day, to get his name out there again. But I think that he gets traded out of Tennessee sooner than later.
Where's he going?
Hopefully somewhere that we get a wide receiver in return.
All right. I'm going to say Bradley Chubb gets traded.
Holy shit, really?
And I think Bradley Chubb is going to get traded to an AFC team. Nothing is coming to my mind right now, but if I had my crystal ball out, I think that Bradley Chubb might get traded to the Titans.
Wow, I would love to have an edge rusher. I was hoping for the Brian Burns thing, but I didn't want to ride that wave. I really do want an edge rusher there.
The Brian Burns thing it's too expensive. The Bradley Chubb thing, because of his injuries, brings the price down. His contract's going to toll, and I think Tennessee needs the help, and Tennessee realizes that they can cruise through the division. Any final thoughts before we roll out of here? Because by the time we come back on, it'll be the trade deadline eve, and we will see where we're at. That's if we do it. I don't know if we're doing a show on Halloween. Maybe is it considered a holiday? We'll discuss that later. It's not important right now. No final thoughts,
man. I'm
Okay.
excited for the World Series to finally happen. Glad the Yankees got knocked out.
That's
Can't
a
believe the
Thursday.
Judge couldn't get home.
That's a Thursday conversation.
Well,
Yeah, hey.
I just can't
Hey,
believe
we
we
got
got
a big
home run
week.
the whole playoffs.
We got a big week. We got the World Series getting started. We got lots of football, college football, the Paul Bunyan Trophy, Michigan versus Michigan State, 7:30 ABC. Make sure you check out all the social medias. If you're not on Twitter, definitely get on Twitter because our Twitter game is starting to step it up a little bit. Josh is doing a little bit of TikTok stuff, and we will see. Kayla and I will see you Thursday. Chad